Are you ready to dig in to all the things that I have made in 2024? Hello, welcome to Show and Tell Meg. I'm Megan and I like to make things, as you will definitely find out in this episode, because this is my yearly roundup. On my blog, in the days of blogs, I always did what I called a year in yarn and a year in thread. But this year it was mostly yarn. So we're just going to call it a year in yarn with a little bit of thread. And I'm mixing it all together. This is everything that I made throughout this year. Because this is so many items, I'm not going to be able to go into super detail about most of these items. A lot of these, though, I have mentioned on this channel before, or there's a blog post about them. So I'm going to try to do my roundup thing where I link everything below. Bear with me, it's a lot of linking, so hopefully all of them work. And if you have any questions about any of them, just leave it in the comments and I will be happy to help you out with that. So let's see what I made this year. So I wrote the list chronologically, and we're going to start with the very first thing that I finished this year, which incidentally happens to be the very first video that I ever posted here, and that is the Moan cardigan. So this is a pattern by Engineering Knits, who is also a YouTuber, and she wrote down all the measurements off of an existing vintage sweater that she had purchased online that someone else had made and made it into a multi-sized pattern. So I was very excited about this at the end of last year when she came out with it. And once I finished all of my Christmas and end of the year stuff last year, it was the very first thing that I wanted to work on. And I actually cast it on, I believe, the last few days of December. And I finished it January 28th. So it only took me a month to make a sport weight sweater, which feels pretty crazy. I made this sweater in Knit Picks Upcycled Alpaca Blend, which is a 30-30-30 split of wool, alpaca, and acrylic. And it's really warm. So while I absolutely love this style, and I do wear it, like I really enjoy it, I live in Florida. And so it's anything with alpaca isn't necessarily the easiest thing to wear all the time. I'm coming into the season now when I can wear it a lot more. Like I wore it just a few weeks ago when we had a bit of a cold spell. So this one I have worn. I haven't gotten to wear it as much as I wanted to just because it hasn't been cold enough. But now is the time when it's going to be. So I'm very excited to have this one. This was absolutely a win. Everything about it. I love the color. I love how this yarn turned out. I love that it cost me like $16 to make this sweater. Just everything. All the texture is so fun and the shape of it is so fun. Definitely a big win for me. The second thing that I finished this year, I actually have with me because it's so adorable. This was on one of my first podcast episodes. This is, I called it Beulah the Bee, but this was the Bumblebee pattern by Barbara Prime. It was in, I think, Knit Now magazine, and I bought the magazine just so that I could get this pattern. I really love Barbara Prime's patterns. If you like amigurumi and knitting, her patterns are just beautiful. They're very classy looking. Like it's just a cute bee. The whole concept was she has a whole series of animals that are bun shaped, and the bee is just the first one that struck me, and I needed to make it. And then you make this flower to sit it in. This sits on a shelf in my sewing room because it's just so adorable. After making gifts and things like that, I always get on this real selfish kick where I just want to make something frivolous and fun for myself. And that's what this was last year. Oh, and I forgot to say, I finished that on January 30th. The next project was another amigurumi project, which was called Ku and Koi. And I have twin daughters. And so when I saw this pattern, I knew that it was perfect for them. And then I didn't have any projects that I had going around Valentine's Day. And so I slapped this out in a couple of days. I finished it on February 11th. And they're two mirrored birds. And it has this little strap thing on one of the wings. And so they actually will hold hands. It's just so cute. And so the fact that they had different hair, but they match in other ways, like they're twins. So I made it for my twins and they were very excited about it at the time. So they're still floating around in the craziness that is my kids' room. But yeah, they were very cute and I was happy to make them something that they can remember that I made this for them for Valentine's Day. Item number 4 was what I call my hockey socks. So I started these at a hockey game in December of 2022. And then I just never wanted to work on them. I wasn't in the mood to make socks then, I guess. And so all of 2023, I basically didn't touch them at all. And then in February of this year, I'm like, you know what? Before I make any other socks, I need to really slap those out. I can't just leave them sitting here. So I finally did. And this was a repeat in two ways. I had used this pattern before and I'd used this yarn in a different colorway before. So this was the Jaywalker Socks by Grumparina. It's a free pattern. And the yarn is Premier Fruits, which is a 100% acrylic sock yarn, but it's oddly very comfortable. And this is the dragon fruit colorway. The previous year, I had made the watermelon colorway and like some basic vanilla socks, and I really liked them. So yeah, they're a very basic design, but you get that cute chevron. It's very easy. Actually, it's an extremely easy to memorize pattern. But yeah, they're a win. I'm glad that I buckled down and actually made myself finish them. After that, I made my Ishbel shawl. And this was another that I had just really wanted to make for no good reason other than I wanted to make it. I loved this yarn. A friend of mine had given me an enormous stash of yarn, of really nice yarn, back in 2022, I believe. And I earmarked this skein immediately. It was one of my favorites, but it had no label. So I have no idea who it's by. It's definitely like a hand-dyed sock yarn, but it's a mystery. I do not know what it is, but I really liked the Ishbel pattern, and it was just kind of both things I wanted to make, so why not make this? And I really like it. I finished it kind of just in time to get to wear it a little bit because I finished it on the 27th of February. So January, February, March is when it's a little cold here. And then it just warms up to where it's not practical to wear things like shawls. I wear them like scarves. So I really enjoyed this, and I know that I will use it in the future. It just is one of those things because it's a shawl, it doesn't get a ton of wear. Also, I did end up having to bind off in gray because I ran out of that other color, and I think it looks really great. I think it looks very intentional. All in all, really cute, really happy with that project. Right after that, I was getting into the swing with YouTube. And so, I had done the Moan cardigan, I had done a podcast episode, I had talked about my favorite amigurumi designer, but I couldn't really think of other things to do for videos. And so I decided to make a video on making a magnetic pin plate, which was something that I've done years before. I have quite a few magnetic pin plates. I have them for myself. I had made them as gifts before. This one, I broke one of mine, and so I needed another one, and I figured why not make a video. So I still use this thing every day that I sew. This sits on my desk in my sewing room, and super handy. Like, totally recommend if you like wrangling your pins and don't want to pay the like $20 or $30 and you want it to look cuter than the ones that you can buy in a sewing store, then thrift store dish with some magnets and some E6000 glue. Done. So if you're curious, there's a video on how to do that. So that was at the beginning of March. And then the next thing that I made, I don't have anymore. I made, and I have a really terrible photo of it, but this was one of those projects that I had planned on making quite a few more, and I only made one and sent it off as a gift, thinking that I was going to take more pictures of the ones I made after, but then they didn't happen. So this is the reversible chicken to egg, or egg to chicken. Which one comes first? This was the Russ Chick to Egg pattern by Stacy Trock. I've had this for years, and I made this for a friend's son. Gosh, he was a little kid, and now he's like 14, so it was a really long time ago. And it's just a really cute pattern. You make an egg, and you make this chicken, and then you shove the egg in there and sew it together, and you don't stuff it. You just flip it. So I thought that my niece would enjoy having it, and I had planned on making one for my niece, one for my nephews, which is a different sister's children, one for my other sister's children, and one for mine. And those did not get made. Maybe this Easter, someone else at least will get one. We'll see. I still have all the yarn together. I just used Hobby Lobby. I love this yarn because I have a lot of that in my stash, and I had the right colors. So it's always a hit. It's a very cute pattern. I definitely recommend it. It's very quick and easy if you have kids that need a flippable chicken to egg. After that is when things kind of amped up a little bit YouTube wise. I made a project for a different YouTuber's challenge, which was called the Crochet Flip Project. And this was hosted by Shannon of Shannon Talks Yarn, who is so nice. That's one of the things that I have also achieved this year, is that I've actually had friends that are like YouTube friends, which is kind of cool. So I wanted to participate in this challenge. I watched her channel and thought, I can do that. I thrift flip all the time and I can crochet. And so I had this shirt that I took the existing neckline embellishment off, and I crocheted these Irish crochet flowers and sewed them on. And I think it came out really cute. I don't think that anybody would actually know that it didn't come like that from a store if I don't tell them, because crochet's become so popular now. But yeah, I was really happy with everything about how this shirt came out. It's a little snug on me now. I've gained a little weight this year, and so I don't wear it as often as I did. When I first made it though, I wore it quite a bit because it was a shirt that I wore before that I had thrifted and worn as it was, and I just decided to change it. But I think it's really cute, and once it's comfortable to wear again, I will totally wear it again. Okay, the next one I have just over there and I forgot to grab, so hang on. Okay, the next thing I made, I completed this on April 5th, and this ended up being a very important project because I gave this to the person that I got married to this year, which feels like a very weird way to announce I got married this year. But while we were talking, it struck me that I should make him this. We had just been talking until this point, and I just thought, you know what? I've always wanted to make this pattern, and I think he would like it. So I knitted this, and I mailed it to him and sent him my heart. And now we're married. So if you knit, maybe that's a strategy. Maybe this heart is good luck. We could find out. Give it a try. I just used some acrylic sock weight yarn that was in my stash that I got at a thrift store, this red. And then I used embroidery floss for the veining. I did some chain stitch embroidery. And yeah, I mean, you could almost say that that project got me married. So it might be something we're trying. That was my 8th project. So number 9 is when I was doing So Frugal, which was also a video that I can put up here. I made 2 projects for So Frugal, which is throughout the month of April. And so this was a free pattern, and I had to use fabric from my stash, which is not a problem at all. I have a ridiculous stash. But this is the Miranda Gathered Detail Tee by Tiana's Closet. And this one was unfortunately a fail. I sewed it correctly, but the pattern, it's like that's a gathered top. It was not drafted like it should have been. It was, I believe, one of those that they put in the details to like a generator and then give out the pattern, but it's also free, you know, so you get what you pay for. But that one did not turn out so great. I made it in a blue cotton interlock material that I had thrifted who knows when, and technically, I mean, it's a perfectly adequate shirt, but it's not at all what the pattern design promised. So that one was not the most successful of projects. The second project that I made for So Frugal so this one is the Vera top by Forget Me Not Patterns, and I made it in some swan print bamboo knit that I had, and this one I still wear all the time. The sleeves are a little weird because I made a change that I shouldn't have, but it's not that big of a deal, and I still wear that shirt pretty regularly. It's very comfortable. I'm really happy with the neckline detail. I liked it so much I made it again. But yeah, it's So Frugal was really fun, and I actually doing this, like writing all this down, has made me think like, oh, I wonder what I'm going to make for So Frugal this year. So I definitely will do it again, and who knows, maybe I'll make another Vera top and totally cop out on it, or maybe I'll make something new. We will see. And that was completed by April 15th. So the next thing I made was another I needed a YouTube video, to be quite frank, and I had no idea what to do, and I had a little time. And so I crocheted a cup cozy for my mason jars. I like to use quart-sized mason jars to drink smoothies out of, and they were always freezing my hands and I'd have to grab, a paper towel or something. And so I decided to finally make a cup cozy for them and I filmed the process. So it's not the most complicated video, but if you need a mason jar cup cozy, there is a video for that. It will be linked below. The next project, number 12 project of the year, is what I think is my favorite project of the whole year, which is my Rose Street cardigan. So this is a sweater by Sydney Craybaugh from Squid School of Vintage Knitting, which I love her. I love her patterns. I love the aesthetic. She takes vintage patterns and makes them into this completely size inclusive formula to make patterns. Sometimes it is a vintage pattern that she has incorporated into her system of sizing, and sometimes it's something that's inspired by vintage that she has seen. This sweater, I made it and I finished it on April 25th. So I didn't exactly get to wear it a ton, being a long sleeve sweater, and this was coming into summer in Florida. So I think I wore it here and there in the air conditioning until the fall and winter. But this fall and winter, that has been my most reached for sweater. Not only does it match a lot of the things that I wear, but because it has that eyelet detail in the sleeves, it does not make me too hot. And that frequently happens in Florida. Like, things don't stay that cold that long. And so when you're inside too, you have the opposite problem because no one here is used to being cold at all. So if it hits 60 degrees, they've all got the heater on. And that sweater with those eyelets, it's just enough of a breeze to keep me cool. So I can wear that sweater much longer than I can any of the others. That's one of the other reasons that I have so many 3/4 sleeved. Like, I love 3/4 sleeves because I get hot. It's just too warm. If air isn't circulating around, I get overheated really easily. So that sweater, it fits great. The color is great. The yarn is fantastically soft and comfortable, and those sleeves are breathable. Like, I need to make several more of this cardigan because it's just turned out to be such a workhorse. Like, definite win there. Also, I did use that cardigan as the example to make my how to reinforce your button bands on sweaters video, which I've had a lot of people say they used. So I'm glad that that was able to spawn a different thing to help other people with as well. So definitely my favorite, most useful item that I made all year long. My next completed project was completed on May 20th, and it was another Vera top. And I used this to show in a video how to use unconventional things as fabric, so to speak. I bought a dress at Old Navy because I really loved the color and the fabric. And I just bought the biggest size possible and chopped it up and made it into this Vera top. And I still wear that all the time, even though my weight has fluctuated. I just wore it just a couple of days ago. So that is a great combination, and I am very, very happy with that project. So if you want to see that one, the video will be linked below. And the reason that I had such a gap in finished objects, I had other things I was making, and I didn't show them on here because I wasn't telling that I got married. So I sewed my wedding dress. And before I did that, I wanted to make sure that everything was going to fit. I knew vaguely what I wanted to do, but I wanted to make a mock-up to make sure that I liked all of the elements, that they looked as good on me as I hoped that they would before I made my wedding dress out of them. So I used the Charm Patterns Night and Day dress. And I have the dress here. I don't have photos of it on me, I don't think. If I do, I will put it over here, but this was my mock-up, but I was making it as a wearable muslin. So it does have more issues with it. I have it with me, but I don't think you're going to be able to see anything. This is my night and day dress, which I realize is very unexciting looking. I mean, it's just a purple dress on a hanger, but I made it out of this fabric that was given to me. I don't know what this is. It's cotton. And it has this interesting texture, almost suede-y kind of texture, but it's 100% cotton, and if it is the fabric that the bolt said, it said it was an April Cornell Portugal line. When I looked that up, all of those are like these heavy florals. So, and they're quilting cotton. April Cornell makes quilting cotton. So I don't know, but I got this from a quilter who was destashing, and she had an entire bolt of this. And so I knew it was the perfect thing to make my mock-up with. And I made a mock-up out of muslin material first, but this was my wearable muslin. So I'd use the rounded neck, I did 3/4 bishop sleeves, and I did the yoked skirt. And that was the big thing that I wasn't sure how it was going to look on my body, if I would like it. Turns out that I did. And I liked this so much. Like, it had its issues, but it was definitely a usable dress. So, however, I had a friend help me. She had a hemming machine and she hemmed this, but it turned out that I had turned up the hem a little too much. And so I do wear this with a petticoat underneath, but my hem is just a bit too short. This is so hard to show on a small screen, but see how you can see that line and it's kind of puckering a little bit. So I have always intended to redo the hem on this, to drop it a little bit, and I never did. So I have not worn this dress, and it's because right after I got married, I gained a little bit of weight. And so this doesn't fit me anymore, but it will. And as soon as it does, I will put it on, take pictures. But that's why I never made a video. I had planned on doing a whole video of the process, but I was also, when it came down to it, I was so trying to get this done quickly that I did not film very much of the process. And I was going to go back and talk about it later. And, you know, time passes and then it didn't fit me. But it is a lovely dress. I am very happy with how it turned out. I definitely recommend the Charm Night and Day dress pattern. But yeah, it was a fun project, and I think it's a very cute dress. So as you can probably guess, after I finished that as my mock-up, the next project was the actual dress. And once again, I have it here with me, but at least this one I do have photos of me wearing it. So here is what my dress looked like. I made it in some bleached linen that I got from fabricstore.com. This was the signature finish 5.3 ounce linen for the outside. And then I did line it, I fully lined it with the 2.8 ounce linen. And I really love the signature finish linen. It's very soft. When I lined it, you could not see through it. So it did its job. But yeah, it was very comfy. It was very breathable. I got married outside in the Jungle Adventure Alligator building, which is the biggest alligator building in the world, I'll have you know. And we got married inside of his mouth on a Saturday after they closed for like 10 minutes while it was raining. And it was so humidly hot. It was ridiculous. And so that's why I went with linen, because I knew we were going to be doing this outside. And it's just very quick and small with my family. So show a few pictures from that. But I'm proud that I made my dress. It did a great job. And I had planned on making just super simple and then adding fancy embellishments to it later, but I ended up just really liking it as it was. I did make one embellishment though. So I just went in the other room to try to find the other thing that I made, and I can't find it. It's in a drawer or something somewhere, but I did find the fabric that I made. So after I made my dress, I wanted to jazz it up a bit, and I happened to find this fabric in the Hobby Lobby clearance of all things. And it's just a mesh that has these pearls spread throughout. And so I bought all they had left. And I ended up using only like 1.5 yards. And I didn't want it to be gathered like my skirt was. I just wanted it to be wide enough to go over the span of it, if that makes sense. So I actually used the Hollyburn skirt pattern. I thought of that pattern because it's an A-line. And so I took one of my Hollyburn skirts and put it on over that dress, and it was perfect with the petticoat underneath. So I just used the Hollyburn, and I cut out the pieces for the Hollyburn skirt, but I did it on the fold instead of having 2 separate pieces, so that I could accommodate for that straight yoke across the front. And then I attached it to a a white rayon Peterson ribbon that I had on hand. It's the same ribbon that I use to back my sweaters. And I put a hook and eye on it, and it was good to go. So that way I could take it on and off. I didn't think it was going to be very comfortable to sit on top of those pearls, so I doubt you can really see it, but here's a picture of my dress again. And it has that pearl overskirt on it. So like I say, whenever my dress fits me again, which I hope to be not that far in the distant future, I will put it on and I will show all the particulars about it. So that project took up most of May and June. I did have knitting projects going at the same time, 2 of them, and we're going to get a little out of order here because I want to talk about one before the other. One of them I did show on here, or I showed both of them on here, but the first one was the Samar cardigan, and I was making this with the thought that I might wear it with my wedding dress when I first started it because I loved this yarn. And I thought that it would be a really nice touch. And then it's something that I knitted because I love knitting. But in the end, I decided to go with the 3/4 bishop sleeve, and I in no way had enough yarn to make this longer sleeved. So I did knit this. I finished it June 8th, and I was still in the process of making the dress at the time. I would put this on and try to decide, like, what sleeve do I want to do? Do I want to make it a short sleeve so that I could wear it with this? In the end, I decided I like the bishop sleeve better. So I do still have this, and I do really like it still. I have, to this day, not put the buttons on yet. And, that's on me. I need to back the button band, and I even bought buttons at the sewing studio sale in July, and I just have not gotten around to doing it. So that's something for the coming year. But I do still wear it like it is. That's probably why I haven't done it, because I have a brooch that I can just pin it with and it looks really cute. So it's definitely still wearable like it is. But this was my Samar cardigan. And before I did that one, I also did the Dalloway blouse, which is another Sydney Craybaugh pattern. And this was kind of an experiment. I'd never made anything remotely like this. It's not a style that I would usually gravitate toward, but it was based off of a 1920s and 30s jiffy pattern. So I knew it was going to go fast, and it could use this yarn that I had in my stash. I used Silk City Fibers Bamboo 7, which is a bamboo yarn, which I'd never worked with before. So it was a lot of new experimenting with this one. And there are mistakes, and sadly the mistakes are kind of visible in a way that make me not as excited to wear it. But it's not so much the mistakes that make me not want to wear it as it's just not quite a style that I wear. And I kind of knew that when I was making it, and I was doing it as a bit of an experiment. So I'm not upset about it that I don't love it. It's a cute shirt, I think. It's just not quite a style that I want to reach for all the time. Okay, so that was finished May 22nd, and the Samar was June 8th. And then my wedding dress and everything, that was the whole month of June because I got married on the 29th. So after that, I decided to make a few different things. I started for a video my crocheted keychains, but I only made one on July 15th. And then I didn't make the others until August sometime, or September, I think, is when I put out that video. So I was in the works of that, but I didn't really make all that much until Sock Week. So I made a video of the socks I made for Sock Week, and they turned out really great. And that basically is responsible for me getting the sock bug. I became obsessed with knitting socks, and I ended up knitting 9 more pairs or something, or 9 pairs for the whole year, 10 pairs, I don't know. I just started knitting a lot of socks. So that was the catalyst, and that video came out really good. I was really happy with it. And so those are the I'm So Basic sock pattern. It's a free pattern by Summer Lee, and I used Regia, Arnie, and Carlos jacquard printed yarn for the main part, and then I used Hobie Silly Sock in the neon yellow colorway for the cuff and toe and heel. And I really like those. Those were finished July 28th, which was the last day of Sock Week. So since I had the sock bug, and since I was displaced from my house, I decided to make another pair of socks because it's a very easy portable pattern. And I made the film reel socks. And I used Knit Picks hand painted Stroll for that in the home movie colorway, which I felt was very appropriate. And I used Hobie Silly Sock Disco in black and white for the black and white details. Really like those socks. I did make a few mistakes, but I'm really happy with the color work because that was kind of the big experiment. I'd never made colorwork socks before, and I was afraid that they might not fit because I have a tendency to make colorwork too tight. But these, I was super paranoid about it, and so they ended up one of them being a little too loose. So, but they're totally wearable, and I like them. They're comfy. So after that, I made my reversible Stegosaurus. So he goes into an egg, and he hatches into a Stegosaurus. And this was another, I just really liked this pattern. I wanted to make it. I was displaced from my house. I tell you all the details of it on my last podcast episode. But yeah, I think it's just a super cute toy. Sometimes you just have to knit a cute dinosaur, right? And that's what this was for me. And I also got to use a new yarn I had never used before. This was Knit Picks Mighty Stitch in the Fruit Punch colorway, which is just the perfect name for this color. But I think he came out really cute, and I always love reversible animals. After that, I made a gift for a new baby. I made an elephant for a lovely little lady, and the mom, it's her favorite animal, so that's what I wanted to make the baby, and it went over very well. So that one is still with its new recipient. And for that, I used Stacy Trock's book, Crocheted Softies. It's her elephant pattern. Very easy, very quick. And that book is older. I'm sure you could get it secondhand now, and probably at your library. But that's a great amigurumi pattern if you like to crochet. After the elephant, and sort of at the same time as the elephant, I decided to finally tackle a pair of socks that I had started back in like March. I decided I wanted some gray socks because that was my most boring sock yarn I had in my stash, because I wanted some kind of basic boring sock in case you could see it while I wore my shoes instead of all the zany, colorful socks I usually make. And I decided to make them lace because just because it's a boring color doesn't mean it needs to be a boring sock, right? Not that gray is a boring color. I'm being, whatever. But I really liked these. So I decided to use the Chrysanthemum Fruitescens socks by Hunter Hammerson. This was a pattern out of her Knitter's Curiosity Cabinet Volume 1. And they're beautiful. Like, it was a very confusing pattern when I first started it in March, and I just completely lost steam on making them. And so when I was becoming obsessed with socks and I had done all the things, I was like, you know what? I need to finish those socks before I make these others that I want to do. And so I buckled down, and I ended up finishing them in like a week or something like that, a week and a half, which is kind of ridiculous considering how long they sat. Unfortunately, they don't fit my feet. That lace pattern is not as stretchy as I'm usually in need of for my high arches, which I didn't know that I had at the time. I knew that socks were a little snug to pull over my heel, but until making all these socks, I didn't know why that was. And so I got them on to take photos, but I'm afraid to put them on again because getting them on and off, I felt like I was going to rip the yarn. That's how tight they are. So they look lovely, and they just sadly sit in my drawer. Maybe I'll make another pair one day. I don't know. But they are beautiful, and I was very bummed that they don't fit. But you live and you learn. So after those socks, I did try another experiment with socks. I made my summer Twizzler socks. And these are summer because this is Hobie Summer Sock yarn. It's a cotton acrylic blend, and I'd never made cotton socks before. So I wanted to see kind of how they hold up, do they bag out and things like that. And these are great. They're very comfy. They're very breathable. I haven't had any issues of them bagging out any more than any kind of hand knitted sock tends to do, So I like the colors. This was the papaya and melon colorway. And if they have any of this left, I'm sure it's probably majorly on sale because it's winter now, and this was summer yarn. So maybe look into that. I'll have it linked below. But I was really happy with it. I ended up getting a couple more colors of this yarn because it was so comfy to wear. Okay, my next pair of socks, because we're in sock land now, was my Scatterbee socks. And these were made using Knit Picks Muse in the Joyous colorway. It's a hand painted yarn, and that was a free pattern by Amy Stringer. Any of these socks, if I just realized I've forgotten to say who these patterns were by and if they were free and all that kind of stuff. I made a video in September, October, all about all the socks that I had made. I made it in October. So I will link, it looks like this. I will link that below so that you can see all the particulars about any of these pairs of socks, because I know that I am forgetting things about them. But Scatterbee socks were another free pattern. Really fun texture on that one that I think works really well with a hand painted yarn. It kind of helps incorporate all the colors so you don't get any weird pooling. And I'm really happy with those. I wore those on a trip when it was cold in Ohio, and they were super comfy. So very happy with that. At that point, I realized I hadn't really sewn anything. And a lot of it was because I had gained some weight, and I tend to not want to sew when I gain weight because I always think, oh, I don't want to spend the time to make something and then hopefully I lose the weight and it doesn't fit me soon. I haven't lost the weight yet. And so I decided to make a t-shirt. I was trying to show, how to get out of a sewing slump. And so I made a plantain t-shirt, and I used some art gallery jersey on that. I made a whole video about it that I will link below. And I just wore this shirt this week. I really like it. The fabric is really comfy. And I love the plantain shirt. If you are at all in a transition with your weight, it's just nice because it pulls away from the tummy. So you don't have to feel like everyone's staring at your tummy that's bigger than it used to be, right? And then after that, I wanted to make a skirt as well. And that's when I did a video about sewing for a changing body. I wanted to show how I plan, because I don't want to be the size that I currently am. I plan on losing weight. I wanted to show how you can sew with that in mind so that you could alter down later on as you get smaller. And so I made the Melissa skirt in a rigid denim, which I am actually wearing right now. I wear this skirt all the time. I mean, it's a blue jean skirt and it's heavy duty, so the wind doesn't blow it around. It is jeans for me. So I wear this a couple times a week, I would say, easily, ever since I made it. It's very comfy. I love the pockets. I just love everything about this skirt. So this was definitely a success. And I always recommend the Melissa pattern by Muse Patterns. It is my favorite sewing pattern. Okay, we are at number 29. And that is, I made my niece a fluffy chicken. So I had this yarn, and the emotional support chicken had been going around, which I do still want to make someday, but I just couldn't justify buying the pattern when I have so many patterns, and I don't need a knitted chicken. But I found this design for a crocheted chicken, and I whipped it up in an evening and gave it to my niece for her 2-year-old birthday, and she loved it. She apparently went home and she would take it to bed with her and stuff. So I was really happy that she appreciated it. It's, you never know with little kids. And if they don't, that is what it is. It's not the end of the world, but it's always nice when they do really like what you make them. And after that, I started making my 5 little pumpkins. So I made a video with a full tutorial on how to make these crocheted pumpkins. They're super easy. I used Hobie Honey Bunny candy yarn in their Halloween colorway. And this yarn is awesome. Like, I wish I had bought more of it. I wish, I had 2 skeins and I was able to make these 5 pumpkins, but so many more people wanted pumpkins and they were easy to churn out. And so I wish that I had had more of the yarn, that I could have made more, but I used absolutely all of it to make the 5. So next summer, when they come out with their Halloween yarn, I'm going to be buying some more of that. There will probably be more pumpkins in the future because they're just so quick and easy. So if you need a pumpkin next year, here's your tutorial. And I was definitely on a Halloween kick. I had purchased several Halloween yarns over the years that I basically never got around to making anything out of in time for Halloween. So that was my goal this year, was to actually make Halloween things with my Halloween yarn. And so the next thing that I finished was my Halloween socks, since I was on a sock kick. So this was the Little Sprouts in the Rain pattern, which is another free pattern, and it's a self-striping yarn. This was Hobie Halloween sock in the Scary Socks colorway, and I used their Silly Sock neon green for the cuff and stuff, and those are really comfy. I wore them for Halloween. I've worn them a few other times underneath my boots where you can't see them, you know? And all in all, great workhorse yarn, comfy, cute pattern, great pair of socks. At the same time that I was making those, I also made a Halloween pillow. I crocheted this kind of from scratch. I didn't have a pattern for it. You know, it's a square. You just chain as wide as the square is, and then I did, I think, half double crochets. And this was a fancy Hobie yarn. It was Horizon in their Halloween colorway, and I used the Spooky Spell colorway for this one. So all that color changing, that's a self-striping yarn. And then I used a free pattern for those bats. They were just a garland, and I just used the bat motif and sewed them on and gave them cute googly eyes. And I still am extremely happy with how that came out. I think is really cute, and I look forward to pulling it out every year. And I'm like, why did I wait so long before I made a Halloween pillow? And that was finished on October 7th. So now we're on number 33, which is my Ohio shawl. So I went on a trip to Ohio, and I used that as an opportunity to make a video about how to knit on a plane, like what kind of considerations you do. So I have this video here, and because of all the delays in my flights and everything and all the traveling around while I was in Ohio, I was visiting my husband and meeting friends and seeing, you know, places that he loved and going to restaurants he liked and things like that. And I ended up finishing that entire shawl while I was there, which is crazy, but I really like it. I knitted, it was a free pattern. It's the Gatsby shawl, which is by Dawn Henderson. And I used a skein of Skein Australia yarn called El Merino and in the French lavender colorway. And I really like it. I have not been able to really do anything with it yet this year, again, because it's Florida and it's just not that cold yet. I know that I will in January, February time period. And because it's such a nice neutrally kind of color, I think it's going to match a lot of things. So I'm excited to have that. And it was the perfect project for that trip. So I'm still really happy with that one. And then when I came back from my Ohio trip, I was able to finish my Beetlejuice socks, which were inspired by, I saw a hand-dyed yarn company that made kits that was self-striping black and white yarn. And then they had mini skeins for the toe and the heel and stuff. And I was like, I have so much in my stash. I can make those. So I did. And I love these socks. I'm really excited to have them. When you have them in your shoes, it just looks like a black and white striped sock. You don't see the pops of color, but the pops of color are really fun, and I know they're there. So I think these are going to be a very useful sock to have just because I don't have to show off zany colors with neutral kind of outfits, if that makes sense. Not that I don't love the crazy fun socks. I do, clearly, but sometimes you just need a normal looking sock, right? So that's what those are for me. It's as normal as I get, I guess. And for that, I used all stash yarns. So it was Hobie Silly Sock Disco in the black and white and in the yellow green neon, which is a twist color. And then I used Knit Pick Stroll in the deep purple for the purple. And yeah, very comfy. Love those socks. So after that, I had sort of a stretch goal Halloween pattern that I wanted to make because it was just so cute. And I have him here, and I don't regret it. He's amazing. This is Archimedes. Hobie had this as a free pattern on their website, so go and get it. It's by Claire Farrell, and it's just an adorable owl. I show him in my podcast episode number 4, right? Is that the most recent one? And this was just all stash acrylic yarns. He's adorable. I named him Archimedes, and he sits in my sewing room because why wouldn't he? I can look at him every day because he's adorable. So after I finished Archimedes, I was simultaneously working on another pair of socks. I finished the Cuff Club socks, the Colorwork Cuff Club pattern by Summer Lee, which is a basic sock, and then every month she gives you new colorwork patterns. And this was my favorite one from the month of August, which was the first month that she did it. And so I had always earmarked this yarn for it. I used Tanis Fiber Arts Pure Wash sock. I had a sock set. So this was the Winter's Morn colorway with the cherry colorway as the mini skein. And I really like these. I've worn these in my clear boots. They looked very cute and they were very cozy. This yarn is delicious. Like, it made me want to buy more, but because she's a hand dyer, she doesn't always have yarn just available to buy. So we will see if I ever get my hands on any more. But I think I have half of both the main color and the mini skein left. So it will become something else along the lines as well. But very fun pair of socks. I look forward to making more Colorwork Cuff Club socks, which is so hard to say that. And so now we are on to things that you have not officially seen. That's all the stuff that I finished before Christmas. And I finished those socks on November 3rd. And then I basically immediately cast on my plan for Christmas socks. And I was going to make family Christmas socks. Like, this was always intended that I was going to make myself a pair of socks and then make my girls matching socks and possibly make my husband a pair of socks too, depending on how much yarn I had left. And then I hardly had any knitting time throughout the month of November. We were house hunting and all kinds of other things. And so I just ended up not really getting to knit very much. And so I only just finished my pair of socks. Like, today is December 19th, and I finished these 2 nights ago. But these are my Christmas socks. And I had originally planned to give it these like jester looking cuff details. And I might go back and do that next year when I make them for my kids so that we match. But in the meantime, I at least have one finished pair of socks. This yarn is from West Yorkshire Spinners. I ordered it from Wool Warehouse. And this was the candy cane colorway. And this is chocolate lime, which, I mean, from here, they match. I will say, when you look really close, I think you can probably tell that the green in the candy cane colorway is a little bit brighter than this. No one's going to know that on your feet. It is minuscule, the difference. They are extremely close. And this was the Geek Socks pattern, which is free on Knitty. It is by Elizabeth Penny. And it took me a little to wrap my brain around, but then once I got it, then you got it. It's really easy. So it's designed for self-striping. I kind of screwed up right here in that I forgot to stop doing the zigzag pattern under the foot after the heel. I didn't feel like going back, so I just stopped and started doing regular stockinette there. You actually don't feel it with where it is. It's like right after the ball of your foot. So I was kind of worried maybe I'd feel it and it'd be uncomfortable, but it's totally not. But I'm really happy with these. They're a little weird because I have not blocked them or anything. I typically like to block my socks the first time before I wear them, just to get everything all evened out and whatnot. But yeah, I am really happy with my Christmas socks here. And I do have more of the yarn left. I think I only used a half a skein of this for my socks. So I have great hopes that I will be able to do the full plan next year and make 2 pairs of kids socks and 1 more pair of adult socks. We're going to see. But I'm going to start way earlier than I did this year in hopes that it can actually happen. And these are also the socks that I've been showing in my Vlogmas videos. So if you've watched Vlogmas, you might have seen these already completed before now. But if you haven't watched Vlogmas, then those are going to be brand new to you. Okay, I had to go and hunt down this next project. And honestly, by the time this video goes up, this is definitely going to be done. But if you are not watching Vlogmas, you will not have seen this little dude. I am making a Christmas pudding crochet pattern. This was a free pattern by I Crochet Things on Ravelry. And when I saw it was free, I absolutely had to download it and make it myself. So as of right now, I have this lovely ball. I have to make the icing frill and his arms and legs and the details, but that's going to be, I don't know, maybe an hour or so. We watched an episode of Ghosts while I crocheted this. So it's not going to take me very much time to finish it all, but technically, as it stands at this moment, it's a work in progress. When I finish it, I will put a picture right here. We're going to do the magic of editing here and show you what he looks like, because it was just so cute. I had to make a Christmas pudding because it's completely pointless and adorable. This should be done by the time this video goes up. Like, the whole planning with Christmas and New Year's, this is like warping my brain, but I'm making Advent socks. So if you're watching Vlogmas, that's the main thing that I'm showing. I bought the Woolens and Nosh Advent sock yarn, where it's a self-striping yarn that you do a different color every day. So at the moment, I have knitted up to day 18 and day 19. It's this nice peachy color that I'm about to knit later today. And yeah, I am doing an afterthought heel. I'm really liking this project. It's been really fun, and it's just one of those little things to keep you going every day. Like, oh, I need to knit my Advent sock, and I've done it every day but one. I did get backed up one day, and even yesterday with falling asleep, I fell asleep really early, but I still had already knitted my color. So these have been really fun, and so that will be yet another pair of socks for this year. Megan from the future here, just checking in to let you know that I did finish these socks. I finished them on Christmas Day. I was able to finish off the toe and everything like that. So I'm putting a picture of them up here. They are super comfy. I love the colors. This was honestly such a fun project, and I would absolutely do this again next year. I used the Basic Socks #1 pattern from Summer Lee's The Sock Project book, just like I did for the Beetlejuice socks, and I did an afterthought heel in the contrasting mini skein that they gave with the Woolens and Nosh kit. And yeah, these are awesome, and I'm very excited to wear them. And my other kind of long-standing, at this point, work in progress that I've talked about on here a lot, that it is my goal to finish before the end of the year. I don't know if I will have it done by the time this video goes up, but my goal was, once I finished these, that my focus would become finishing this sweater. So this is what I'm calling my crazy rainbow sweater. I've showed it on here a bunch of times since September. This is the Criollo pattern by Justina Lukowska, but her pattern has a fancy cabled ribbing, and I decided to just do regular 2x2 ribbing because this yarn was just so nuts. So it's basically a plain stockinette sweater to accentuate the yarn, and I am almost done with the first sleeve. Then I have to do the second sleeve, and then I have to do the button bands, and it's done. So this is definitely doable. I want to finish it within this calendar year. So I don't know that I will have it finished and blocked and all those things to have a photo of it by the time this video goes up. If I do, it'll go here. Editing Megan again. It is December 30th as I am finishing editing this video, and I finished the first sleeve. I am about halfway through the second sleeve, and I still have to do the neckband and button bands, but I am still trucking along. I still feel like this is doable to finish by tomorrow evening. So I'm putting in footage of what this looks like as of right now on the 30th, but I'm hoping that it will be done by tomorrow night before the end of the year. I'm really excited about this. I know that I will wear it. I've already had several outfits, and I'm like, man, I really wish I had that sweater. So this will be my 5th sweater of the year if I manage to get it done, and I think I can. And then there are 2 projects that are in the works but are not going to be done by the end of the year. One of them you will see in a future video. I talked about the yarn in my last podcast video, but I'm making a shawl out of this yarn that was custom dyed for me. So I'm making the Get Set and Go pattern by Gem Aerosmith. And this is a custom dyed yarn from Beach Bum Yarns. And it's been really fun. It's a really easy shawl pattern, but it had to get set aside so that I could focus on my Christmas socks and stuff. I started this in November as well. And honestly, starting this might have been some of what made my other socks not get done. But that's here and there because I could never have knitted another 6 socks in the time period that I thought I could. Either way. So that's coming in the future. I had also made a good deal of this kit. I was making a sausage mouth monster to test this kit, and I made it almost completely and then realized, wait, this is an AirPods case. And I don't own AirPods. My case is bigger than an AirPods case. So even though the body is completely done and I was about to do the mouth and stuff, I have to rip all this out and make it bigger. I just haven't had the bandwidth to do that. And then I had all the other things to do. I thought this was going to be such a quick slap it out project. That's why I even started it. And then I had a problem that I would have to rip out everything I did. And I just got mad and I set it aside. But this is coming in a future video. You will get to see what I think of the sausage mouth monster kits. The other work in progress is my solstice tee, and I was making a linen t-shirt, and I got the top yoke area done. So it's this long. I just joined for the body, and I just totally lost steam on it. I started making those socks, and I kind of never looked back, and then it wasn't like summer anymore and all those kinds of things. So this I will eventually pick up, but maybe not until it gets really hot again, because we're coming into the cold time of year when I could actually wear warm items instead of something made out of linen. So this might just be sitting until next summer, but I did get a decent little bit done on it and I do like it. So this will also get finished next year sometime. And then I just signed up to do a sock pattern test knit. So I just got the pattern today. I haven't even like wound up yarn yet, but that is going to be happening. It will be started before the end of the year, but I very much doubt that I'm going to finish it because I have those other things I've already mentally committed to finishing. So all in all, if you count the test knit that I have yet to cast on as of today, I have made 44 items, whether it's knit, crocheted, sewing, and then you add in things like YouTube videos and pin plates and all that kind of stuff. Like, I've made a lot of things, which is both surprising and not surprising. And I'm really happy with most everything that I made. And the interesting thing is, had my life not changed in the big way of getting married this year, I would have made a lot more. Because that just led to so many other things that I had to plan and do, and moving people, and, you know, life became a lot crazier, which is fine. Like, it's crazy in a really good way. Things are great. I'm happy. But yeah, I am really proud of what I was able to produce in the year 2024. And I like the thought that I have so many more things planned that I want to produce in the future. So if you got to the end of this video, well done you. Thank you so much for sticking around. Thank you for watching my channel, and let me know what your favorite projects are that I made this year down in the comments. And I hope that you can stick around to see the things that I make next year, because, you know, some of these are still coming and there's plenty more that's going to be made in the future. So until then, I hope that you enjoyed seeing everything that I made this year, and I will see you in 2025.